This is KSUT Public Radio. Regional news is next. Older adults across our region are at the highest risk for taking their own lives with handguns. As the Mountain West News Bureau's Yvette Fernandez reports, the trend is particularly concerning among white men in rural areas.
The Trace, a nonprofit that investigates gun violence, looked at counties across the country. Many of the highest rates were in rural counties in Mountain West states. Researcher Aaron Mendelson says white men who are over 70 are most at risk.
They die by gun suicide at the highest rate. It's a rate more than triple that of Black or Latino men of the same age and 19 times higher than the rate of women 70 and over.
Reasons ranged from terminal illnesses to financial worries. Mendelson says a common thread among this group is the stigma associated with reaching out for mental health help. The organization supports the passage of Donna's Law, which allows people to voluntarily put themselves on a do not sell firearm list. Utah and Colorado have passed similar legislation. For the Mountain West News Bureau, I'm Yvette Fernandez.
In a related story, Jackson, Wyoming has a small group of older men which is meeting regularly to confront something that often goes unspoken: loneliness. Across the country, mental health experts say social isolation among men, especially as they age, has become a growing public health concern. For the Rocky Mountain Community Radio Coalition, KHOL's Sophia Boyd-Flegel reports on this new local chapter of the national organization Men's Shed.
The no-cost group aims to spark connection through hands-on projects, especially for retired men. Research shows they tend to have fewer friends than women and be less inclined to make new friends, according to KFF News. Mark Winston is the founding director of the nationwide U.S. Men's Shed Association. He's lived in Jackson on and off for 15 years and says it's common to hear his peers eager to exit their working years. Then
3 months after that, they're climbing the walls because even though everybody promises they'll stay in touch, that doesn't really happen.
This is the third time in 6 years Winston has tried to get a Jackson chapter off the ground. Beverly Shore is the county's community prevention specialist. She presented recently at an info session at the senior center. She says the group might have access to grant money aimed at preventing substance abuse and suicide.
Everything is about community, and that truly is prevention.
The group is slated to meet every other Thursday at 8:30 a.m. in the senior center. Sophia Boyd-Flegel, KHOL News.
Ski resorts had anticipated a slowdown in seasonal international workers because of recent policy changes by the Trump administration. But as the Mountain West News Bureau's Rachel Cohen reports, industry leaders say the workforce is strong heading into this winter.
The U.S. State Department announced this summer that student visa applicants would need to make their social media accounts public for vetting. That change, plus fewer federal workers to process applications, made some ski resorts worry about hiring enough workers on J-1 visas. It's a cultural exchange program that many resorts use to hire lift operators and food servers. But Dave Bird says resorts are not seeing problems to date. He's with the National Ski Areas Association based in Colorado.
There's strong interest in the program from the students in South and Central America, which is encouraging for us. So we're in a really good position for this upcoming winter.
Bird says more than 8,000 J-1 students are expected to work at ski resorts this winter, about the same as last year. For the Mountain West News Bureau, I'm Rachel Cohen.
You are listening to Regional News on KSUT Public Radio. Families around the U.S. are having fewer children as people make profoundly different decisions about their lives. There's been an especially steep drop in fertility rates across western states, which have also seen a big jump in the cost of housing. The Mountain West News Bureau's Hannah Merzbach has this feature story.
A sea of toddlers throw around colorful blocks and balls at an indoor play center in the Wyoming state capital of Cheyenne. 21-year-old Grace Moreno is here with her 11th-month-old, who's dressed in pajamas with little fire trucks on them.
It's the only free place, so it's worth it.
Finances are tight for Moreno and her husband. They moved here from Texas while pregnant so her husband could work a higher-paying electrician job. But now with their baby boy, paychecks seem to disappear.
Our rent in Texas was like $800. Here it's like $1,775.
Rent is their biggest cost, then $300 a week on groceries, $100 on formula, car payments, and paying for their son's delivery.
I remember sitting there looking at like a stack of mail, probably like maybe 3 inches tall, full of hospital bills, ER bills, and I looked at my husband, I was like, I don't ever want to do this again.
Just 6 weeks after giving birth, Moreno decided to get her tubes tied. She once thought she'd have multiple kids.
I was kind of like, oh my gosh, my mom was right. Like, this is too expensive.
Only having one kid means Moreno's family can save a couple $100 a month for a mortgage, so their son can someday have a backyard. At the moment, though, interest rates are still relatively high.
Not only are homes more expensive, but then add, a 7% rate on top of that.
Emily Harris, a demographer at the University of Utah, says Wyoming's fertility rate is just above the national average, but still too low to replace the state's population. But like many Western states, Wyoming's population is growing. Lots of people are moving to the region to escape bigger cities and for an outdoorsy quality of life, which is driving up home costs. Harris says things like childcare costs and generational values also play into people's childbearing decisions, and that they're definitely changing.
We have this idea of like the nuclear family and, you need to get married and then you buy a home and then you have children. And really over the last decade or two, that kind of timeline has been halted and kind of rearranged.
Some states are passing laws aimed at easing housing costs for young families, but not Wyoming. Trey Sherwood is a Democratic state lawmaker from Laramie.
The biggest barrier to addressing this housing crisis is really convincing my colleagues that the government has a role to play.
Progressives have pushed for a state fund to help build more affordable housing. The Republican supermajority says that would just gum up the wheels of the free market. But Wyoming couples like Reese Lane and Sean Thornton say it's just too expensive to have kids now.
Sean and I started dating, and he said, I don't know, I think I want to have like 6 or 7 kids.
But as we went through like more and more financial struggles, I guess, eventually it came to like, yeah, I think we can have like 1 or 2.
The state university employees spent their 20s struggling to pay rent in tiny apartments. At age 30, they finally bought this house.
And I think that's when we started to realize, like, it might be too late. I'm not sure that we're going to be able to have children.
Lane says it's heartbreaking to not have enough money to give even one kid a full life, but also freeing. For now, they're focused on their fur babies, a Pomeranian and a Shih Tzu mix, who are dressed in matching bandanas with fall leaves.
They're 100% little babies. They're so spoiled.
For the Mountain West News Bureau, I'm Hannah Merzbach in Wyoming.
You are listening to Regional News on KSUT Public Radio, and we'll wrap it up with one more report, this one from the Colorado Capital News Alliance. President Donald Trump is accusing JBS Swift and other major meatpacking companies of driving up the price of beef. JBS has its U.S. headquarters in Greeley. Trump is directing the Justice Department to investigate the 4 companies that dominate beef processing across the U.S. to look for evidence of collusion and price fixing. The president recently said the U.S. might increase beef imports from Argentina to try to bring prices down, which sparked many complaints from ranchers in Colorado and across the nation. Support for local and regional news on KSUT Public Radio comes from the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority.
Support for public policy reporting comes from the Gay and Lesbian Fund for Colorado, promoting programs designed to ensure all Coloradans have the same opportunity to thrive. More information is online at gayandlesbianfund.org.
This is KUTE Ignacio, KDNG Durango, KUSW Flora Vista, and KPGS Pagosa Springs. We are Four Corners Public Radio.